You're watching the Original Music Atlanta podcast.
All right. Hey, welcome to episode 16. We have Secret Weapon, which is a band out of Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight we have Michael Gunny, the bass player for Secret Weapon. How you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I did kind
Of
of
course.
call you last minute.
It's all right.
We had a band that kind of did a last minute cancellation out of New York,
Oh.
and I was like, dude, you can't cancel on us last minute. But anyway, Michael, we kind of go back a couple of years with a band called ODD with Dave Smith that we played with Hope's Anchor. Whenever I saw you guys, I was like, man, that's a real rock band right there.
Oh, thanks, man.
Can you give us a bit of background on ODD, and then we're going to go time warp.
Sure.
We're going to time warp back behind that and figure out how we all got here.
Yeah, man. So ODD was David Smith. That was all his thing, but he had songs written, but no band.
Right.
And I had actually been on about an 11-year hiatus from playing. I hadn't played. My career took a path that took me, my schedule. I was in live sound production for 11 years. So I was working, doing production
actually
on the
making
weekends.
Money.
Yeah. And, that started, and it kind of ties into the Secret Weapon story as well and how it all came back around. But, through that period of time, I got approached by bands, and I'm like, look, my job is like I'm working all the weekends anyway. But anyway, so then you blink your eyes and 10 years are gone, right? 11 years. Well, my situation changed, and I got a more normal schedule, and I ran across David Smith. We hooked up through Facebook. I had run into him out and about randomly, very randomly over the years. And so we got to talking, and, he sent me some stuff that he had recorded, the early stuff that became ODD. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm good enough anymore to hang with this dude, because I hadn't played.
He's a great player, man. That guy's
dude.
Good.
He's an alien, man. He's a natural talent. No lessons.
Yeah.
He plays drums, keyboards, bass, guitar. I think he's one of the best rock singers around. Not just in Atlanta. The guy's vocals are just insane. So we hooked up. He sent me the stuff. I started learning it. Went over to his studio in Villa Rica. We tried a couple of drummers. We worked with a guy named Chuck Smith for a while.
Yeah.
And that didn't really work out. And then we came across Ken Reeves, the drummer.
Sure.
At a sort of reunion type show. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but we all ended up at a bar in McDonough called Motorheads.
Oh, Motorheads. Okay. What year is this? What year?
2013-ish.
Wow. Okay.
I started messing with Dave. My stuff changed around 2011, end of 2012. Me and Dave hooked up, started jamming with what became ODD. And then we all ended up at this gig. None of our bands were playing, but it was like, I can't remember, it was like a benefit or something. And Sean Hansen was there. I mean, all the guys from my old band from the 80s and 90s, and Dave was there. Well, unbeknownst to me, Dave and the guy, Ken Reeves, who was the drummer, with the band with me and Sean Hansen way back in the day. Again, we get another story. Unbeknownst to me, Dave and Ken had talked at that event, right? They didn't really know each other from back in the day, but just through mutual connection, they got to talking. Well, Dave calls me a couple days later and he says, "Hey, guess who's coming over this weekend to jam?" I'm like, "Who?" He said, "Ken Reeves." I'm like, "Well, well, all right. Chuck wasn't really working out. We didn't really know what we were going to do. And Ken lived in Birmingham at the time.
Oh, wow.
So that's what became ODD. And for the first year and a half or 2 years, Ken was driving from Birmingham to Villa Rica.
Wow.
For rehearsals.
Wow. And that's one thing we haven't really talked about on the podcast, and I think we're episode 16. These players that play original music, that play any music, are willing to drive to Austin, Texas,
right.
to get together with the right symmetry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know in my other areas of life, like my professional life, that these guys would be willing to, drive to Nashville to, I don't know, do a fishing tournament with another guy because he's a good fisherman.
Yeah, right.
Musicians are a rare breed of.
Yeah, man.
They would, by the way, I think.
Yeah, actually, I think they would too. But that's interesting that it's a circle of people and that's another. It's a community. Of people.
Oh yeah.
Like-minded people that are doing the same types of things, and you might meet somebody in the community that's like right up your alley, or the old "stay in your lane" kind of quote. I know my lane, but if I see somebody I see somebody in another band that might be in the same lane I'm in, I might want to jump in the car with them.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not like some back in the day maybe it was frowned upon, but like these days for me, it's not frowned upon at all for like, hey, Gunny, man, would you play on this track with us?
Oh, sure.
Those types of things happen now.
I know. Oh, I know. I have stories about that concept as well, but yeah. So I mean, that was the beginnings of ODD, and then marathon rehearsals on the weekend.
Yeah.
Ken would come over and then we had a good run up until 2018-ish, 2019-ish.
Yeah. That's when we did a show with you.
That's right. Yeah.
So let me ask, where did ODD come from?
Yeah. What's the basis of the name?
Oh, so we were all hanging out at Dave's one night with the wives, and we're just over there, having dinner and, just hanging out or whatever. And Dave's wife is she's a special education teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And we're over there and just chatting and whatever. And she was talking about, some issues with some kids or whatever. And she mentioned that this one kid was diagnosed with this condition called ODD, oppositional defiant disorder.
All right.
It's an actual clinical diagnosis that they give kids.
Sure.
Wow.
And it's awful, but when she said that, we all just kind of perked up and looked at each other and was like, ODD.
That's us?
Yeah, what is that?
Oppositional ODD. Fan name. Boom.
Yeah, defiance disorder. Normally it's OCD, right?
OCD, that's right.
Yeah, we always hear compulsive, right?
But this is oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah.
Is it a real thing? Is it made up? Is it psychobabble?
Good
I don't
question,
know.
right?
But it's just, they actually, and the logo, was to mimic, like the rubber stamp, like you've been deemed ODD.
Yeah.
And it's just a kid that's, probably just being a kid, man. Attitude problem they don't want to deal with, and it's a real thing. But that became the band name that night.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what? The best band names always seem to happen that quick.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the
when
name.
Yeah. I mean, when everybody looks at each other and all even like it, kind of.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with that.
Yeah. I mean, she said that. We all just kind of were like, huh?
What? Let me put this out there real quick. Okay, I was in a band with my wife, Billy Gray from Fozzy. I had another bass player. Anyway, none of that matters, but we were going to use that name. My wife came up with that name. That's what she said. And I'm like, oh, that's a good name.
Yeah.
And then 2 months, 3 months later, no shit, you guys were like, there's look, and these guys are great. And that's when that was back, when I did the 10 High tribute with Kim.
Right.
Yeah, she kicks butt, man. And
yeah, man.
Good band for sure.
That's a whole nother story too. And that was her concept, And, yeah.
What a great name. I mean,
it's a good concept of, so in this era, and we always go down the road, but in this era of tributes and cover bands, there's a difference between doing a tribute band specific to one band, learn their records and learn their material, and then doing a the best of chick rock.
Well, that's it. That's what
I think genre bands.
Yeah,
I like better than the idea of tribute band. We're only playing Huey Lewis tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Well, I can tell you from experience, the tricky part is, it can be a marketing. The tribute bands have built-in marketing. Okay, people know what they're going to see.
Yeah.
Whatever band tribute they know. And with a band like us, part of the problem that we've had, we don't need to get into this too much, but marketing, people don't really know what it is until they come see us.
Right.
So it can be a little bit of a challenge from that respect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a little harder than your straight up tribute band.
Yeah. You know what you need? You just need the tagline.
We landed on Platinum Jet, which was kind of, I think, the same idea that you guys were going with, which was just, Gwen Stefani, Joan Jett, all the good chick rockers that are out there, and you got a badass singer that can do it, and a great band backing her up.
Yeah,
that's what we were after too.
Right,
and
there's room for everybody, man.
But there really is. There really is.
There's no doubt.
Hey, there's room for everybody unless you're, I don't know, an original prog rock band that has no lead singer and synced with video. And
you're not trying to do it. You're not trying to do it the hard way, are you?
Yeah, I'm doing it the hardest.
Hey, let me know when you guys need a drummer.
Yeah.
Hey, man, ODD was we were in the same boat, man. It's like, because we did the cover thing too, but that was strictly by accident.
Your Zeppelin stuff was amazing.
I mean, and all of our cover stuff came out of these marathon rehearsals that we would have. When Kenny would drive over from Birmingham, we'd be in Dave's rehearsal room, not much different than what you're in now,
right?
For 7, 8, 9, 10 hours.
Wow, isn't it beautiful?
At a time.
Yeah.
And we would work on originals, and we would get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden we would just bust out into, the Zeppelin, or one day we had a fucking Kiss marathon,
a Kiss tune,
of just stuff that we just all knew. So then next thing we know, we turn around, we're like, shit, man, we got 30 songs, and we own all this gear. Well, let's do some cover gigs, mixing, the whole thing, mixing originals. And we do all these gigs, and I mean, how many times people would say, man, you guys are killer and whatever, but we weren't danceable. We weren't bringing the chicks in, and so the cover, So anyway,
right?
We're like Rush or King's X.
Yeah,
it's like
King's X. I heard of them once.
Yeah.
So what's so Secret Weapon?
Yeah,
that name came about how?
Yeah, you said there was a backstory behind the backstory.
What I wanted,
yeah.
There is. So Secret Weapon is the first time in my music band, adventures, something that I conceptualized and put together in secret from all the people that I was playing with, like all the Dave, Ken, Kim, and my other band I'm in, Water to Wine, with Ken and some other, nobody knew that I was even doing it, and I started messing with it back in 2021.
Yeah,
and Secret Weapon was just really it was a working title
Yeah.
that I came up with that just kind of stuck. But like I said, so Secret Weapon started the concept, not the concept, but all right. I was in a band in 99, 2000 area called Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was a songwriting team, two guys, a guy named Dan Lutan and Dave V. Johnson. Dave V. Johnson is and has been for the past 20 something years a drummer for Driving and Crying.
Right.
So, but I was in this band with them for a few years, 99, 2000, whatnot. And what kind of fizzled Beautiful was at the time I got into sound and lighting production.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know, I've been doing this for years and I didn't go anywhere. Had these dead end jobs. You know, I was your typical stoner bass player delivering pizzas or whatever.
Yeah.
And the opportunity with a company, you know, that I was able to carve out an actual career came about. And I started going down that road right at the time that Dave was doing gigs with Driving and Crying. Okay. So he got busy with Driving and Crying. I got busy with that. Beautiful kind of fizzled out. It was never really intended to be a band anyway. It was just a songwriting duo.
Right.
So, and then I was a part of their orbit with other musicians and whatnot. I would play gigs around town and for a couple of years and whatnot. Well, so during my hiatus, their music always stayed on my iPod.
Oh, okay.
And I always loved the music. I loved the band. And after ODD got together, you know, and it was just music on my iPod.
Sure.
That I loved from friends of mine who I love, that I love their music. So, you know, and even back in the ODD days, I had toyed with the idea of re-recording some of that stuff, but it never came to fruition.
Right. And
then here in the past couple of years, you know, and every time I'm riding in the car with the wife and those songs come on, she's like, man, this music is so great. And I always thought it was too. It's a shame that it's been buried all these years.
Right.
So I like, well, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. So I formulated the idea and I started picking the best songs. And I always wanted it to, you know, be heavier than it was back then. They were very pop oriented and very garagey, which was great, you know, for what it was. So I started putting together a set list of beautiful songs.
Right.
And I enlisted people that I thought might be interested, played them the stuff, and actually started with a guy named Jeremy Brown on drums. Do you know Jeremy?
No.
He plays in bunch of cover bands around town. And then he bowed out because he was busy with other stuff. And so I was stuck a little bit. And then I contacted John Mark, and luckily he jumped in. He loves the music and everything. So that's what the beginnings of Secret Weapon.
Right. So you brought back some old stuff, kind of revamped it, and and kind of did it on the side of you know, I kind of want to do this, you know.
I want to do this, and I want to do it, you know, with all people that I've not played with any of the guys in Secret Weapon. I've known them all,
right,
but we've never played together.
Well, let's name them. Who is in who's the lineup of Secret Weapon?
Okay. So we have John Mark Lundell on drums and killer backing vocals.
Yeah,
oh my God, the kid, you know, and he's another David Smith type. Right. The dude, he's a badass drummer. He's a killer bass player.
Oh no!
Way better than me.
One of those guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Plays
Is he
guitar.
a headset mic or a boom mic guy?
No, he's a boom. He's
okay.
Yeah.
He's a player.
the mic in front. Yeah,
he's a player.
He plays guitar. He records.
I
he
hate him already.
He's one of these guys. And I've known John Mark for many years and his brother and everything, but never played with him. And then when Jeremy bowed out, and the music's right up his alley. So I was stoked when he was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." And then Andy Wall, lead guitar player.
Yep.
I contacted him because I've known Andy through Dave. That's how I got to know Andy, and I knew his style. And I'm like, he's just weird enough to fit right in with my weirdness,
right?
And he has his approach to guitar would be perfect. So I sent him stuff and talked to him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm down." And I'm like, I don't know who to get. I was for somebody. We need a rhythm player that can sing lead.
Right.
And he's like, "Well, Wade, who Andy had played, Wade Garman, lead vocal and rhythm / some lead guitar, but mostly rhythm."
So Andy recommended Wade.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, because they had played together in some cover bands, and they still play together in a cover band now called the Chillbillies.
Okay, nice. That's actually
a great name.
That's a good name.
Yeah,
that's like the Hungarians.
Yeah. They're kind of they play at Good Old Days and Rosati's. They don't play a ton, but it's very kind of Southern rock, Black Crowes, Allman Brothers type covers, and so they play together. So he brought Wade in, and Wade jumped right in, and he's loves the music, and so that's what we're doing. But that's not all we're doing. That's the beginnings of it. Is for me, I'm not a songwriter. Okay, I'm a bass player. That's it.
Well,
I don't try to do anything else. I'm a specialist.
Yeah.
Okay, I might not be the greatest, but I'm just a bass player, man. So, but Johnny has great tunes.
Yeah.
Wade has tunes. So we're going to, and already in the process of doing their tunes and writing fresh. But the revamp of the beautiful music has been the catalyst.
Sure. And it sounds like to me that you are you're the wrangler at the rodeo.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the idea of and I find myself doing the same stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I have an idea.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Kind of like just putting the idea out there and just kind of wrangling it all together and timing it to make it happen. I mean, you have to be a make it happen person to put a band together.
Well, every band,
which I've never done.
Every band has to have a person that's kind of got that in them, or you're just going to have a cluster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's short-lived band.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of scary, but not, because I've never done that. I've never been in the position to be the driving force of a project. And I love all my other projects, but this is something that I needed to do away from the pressures that we find ourselves in with That's What She Said.
Sure.
And another original band I'm in called Water to Wine.
Okay.
Which I'm just the bass player, but still, it's their whole.
I don't know why you keep saying just a bass player, because I'm a drummer and I know if you're a bass player or if you play bass. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying when I say that?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I've played with bass players and I've played with guys that play bass.
I got you.
And there's a huge freaking difference.
Yeah. There is.
I got you.
So don't sell yourself short, because
I understand. My wife gets on to me all the time.
I think you're one of those guys that are a bass player. You know what I mean? You know what you're doing.
Like I said, man, I try to be a specialist. I feel like I know the role of a bass player.
That's it, right there,
extremely well.
Yeah,
and if you're playing with a badass drummer, then you've got
it. Man.
The rhythm section, if that's solid.
No, you don't have a band. You don't have a band without those two things.
No.
Yeah. And I can tell you, man, I love playing with Kenny. Ken Reeves, and That's What She Said, and Water to Wine.
Sure.
And ODD. I probably played more gigs with Kenny Reeves than any other drummer in my life.
Yeah.
Going back to the 80s and 90s and whatnot.
Wow.
And, love Kenny. He's like my brother. And, I'm blessed to be able to play with such great musicians. Man, John Mark, dude, that guy, it's like, I never played with him before. It's like the first time we got in the room together, it was like two peas in a pod.
Yeah,
man.
I envy that. I envy that. I don't have anybody in my life. I've been a drummer since I was 9, and I don't have anybody in my life that I can say I've been with them the entire time. I envy that.
Right.
I really do.
Yeah.
Ray and I played together 15 years ago. But there was a 13-year gap between us hooking back up, and a 14-year gap. And I'm blessed that we've got what we've got going on now. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying to have somebody that you're that close with musically, when you're that deeply dedicated to it, or it's in your blood that deep. That's a cool thing.
Man. Yeah,
and
man.
I wish I had that with somebody.
I think it always comes down to the circles. You just talked about 3 or 4 projects, and all of the projects are family.
Yeah. Under the umbrella, as you would say.
Under the umbrella, things. We're going to do this band. These people are going to be involved that are. Yeah. You remember the Zeppelin logo?
Yeah.
I think it was Zosos that had the circles that intertwined. Yeah. That's almost how the band families should operate. We bring Dominique on. I'm in a band called Sweet Soul Sister. Yeah. She comes in and does a song with us in Giza. Yeah. Harry and Swift are doing some side thing with us.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're all family.
Man.
We're just eating chocolate covered cherries today. Instead of the other stuff.
Well, and the other
Very
kind
well
of thing in my band Water to Wine, which Kenny Reeves is in, the lead guitar player, he and his wife's band.
Yeah.
And it's a very kind of a southern rockish, quasi modern country-ish type of thing. And in that, I say I'm just the bass player. And I
thought
say
it was a
that
Christian band. I'm just saying.
No, it kind of started that way with Matt and his wife.
Yeah.
But it's not that. But they are Christians, and it influences their thing. But they're not beat you over the head.
Right. I am too. But I cuss a little bit.
Yeah. And Matt is another one that's my brother. As a matter of fact, so Matt, Ken Reeves, Sean Hansen, and me were a band in the 80s and 90s called Never Never.
Oh,
and then
I've heard that.
Matt, and then Matt Russum, Water to Wine, he started a company called the Show Business Sound and Lighting with the PA and lighting system that Never Never built over the years. Parkans, W boxes, OAP, this huge, rig that we carried around. When that band ended, he bought us all out and started the Show Business Sound and Lighting in his dad's garage.
Right.
Well, fast forward 5 or 6 years, he gave me the job that gave me a real career.
Yeah.
I went to work for Matt for 11, almost 12 years.
Yeah. That's how it works.
And then I end up in Water to Wine with him, and and it's like it's great.
Well, you know how that works, Gunny? That works by being a good person and not burning bridges, and not being hard to work with,
egotistical.
Right. Yeah, and just being family. You're going to have arguments and disagreements in family. You might even tell somebody in your family on a Thanksgiving dinner some not so good things, But
you want me to say it?
You don't really mean them. I mean, you mean them, but it's not in any ill will, that kind of thing.
I get it.
But well, let's go even further back.
Okay.
At what age did you pick up the bass guitar or an instrument and decide that you were going to go down this path? Yeah.
Bass.
So
15.
What age? 15 years old.
15 years old. I remember the day.
Well, nice.
Wow. I remember the day.
Yeah.
I lived in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yep.
Okay. My dad worked for the airlines. We lived here. I was a jock, dude. I was a baseball player, right? We moved to Kansas City after my 6th grade year. So I get yanked from everything I knew and thrown into Kansas City, going into junior high.
Yeah.
That's a big transition,
Sure.
right? I lived in a hotel with my dad while my mom and sister were here while he looked for a house. And I went to school not knowing anybody. Anyway, fast forward a couple of years, I still played baseball. Well, I'm hanging out with friends who were musicians and in my neighborhood. We're all 15, 16. They were a little bit older than me. And one day after school, I was getting a ride home from a guy, Joey Evans, still my friend, getting his car to come home. And he pops a cassette in his cassette player. And I hear for the first time in my life, Iron Maiden Wrathchild blasting through the speakers. And when I heard that opening bass riff, I was like, what in the world is that? You know, I went home that day and I told my dad, I want to learn to play bass.
Nice.
I want to make that sound.
Now, Maiden, is that Steve Harris? Is that
Yes.
the Gallup? That's the Gallup,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So Steve Harris changed your whole life.
When I heard Wrathchild,
Yeah.
I went home that day and told my dad, and my dad, you know, he messed around with guitar. He always wanted it, but he was never very, very musical, but he loved music, but he wasn't a player. And he tried to talk me out of it. He's like, no, play, you know, why do you want to play bass? Learn how to play guitar. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I want to play bass. I know so many people that play guitar.
Yeah.
And I want to make that sound.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, he coalesced, you know, and I was 14, 15 years old and went and he bought me my very first bass,
which was what?
1970.
Say that same thing.
1978 Fender Precision bass.
Wow,
You still have
bass. You got a P bass right out the gate.
Yeah. So we went to a music store and my dad, we asked for recommendations for somebody to take lessons. And they gave us a guy's name, Jeff Rendlin. I still remember this guy's name. I took private
your
lessons.
memory's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, selective. I took lessons from this guy for a couple of years, and when we called him to set everything up, my dad was like, "Well, what? You know, he's just starting out. What should we get him? Blah blah blah." And this was 1981.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, there weren't. Anyway, he said, "Get him a Fender Precision bass."
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay. So we go to Quigley's Music in Kansas City, Missouri, $350.
Wow.
And I ended up with a 78 that I still own.
Yeah.
You do still have it.
Yeah.
That's
I do.
incredible.
And
dude.
if you've ever seen one of my basses, unfortunately it's upstairs, but the one that's all painted with all the flames and white flames, you probably saw it at the Stuck Mojo show. I played it with ODD for years.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I had hand painted. Anyway, that's it. I still have it. It's gone through many iterations of. It's not stock by any stretch of the imagination.
That's super cool that you still have it, though.
Oh yeah,
it's the Gunny bass.
The Gunny bass.
Yeah. It's priceless, man. It's one of those things. It's one of those things that like. I would be devastated if something happened to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I wish I still had my first kit. It was just a piece of shit. CB700 kit that my dad paid $400 for, which is way too much, from the barbershop right next to the music store that I ended up working at.
You end up in a
I still have that sucker, man. As a matter of fact, me and my wife were just talking about it, and you know, we're old, right? We're getting there. My wife and I we're in the process of redoing our wills.
Oh yeah.
And like all my possessions and everything, we're trying to divvy all that stuff up. Who gets this? I'm like, I don't care. I'll be dead, you know, but you have to deal with that. And, you know, of all our possessions, she said, like, I was to go first, she was like, the only thing I would want is that bass.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, of everything else,
well, that
it's
answers
like I would
that.
just want to keep that bass. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's special.
she's been on board with this part of your journey, and
Yes.
you have to have a spouse that
Oh yeah.
is on board.
Yeah.
Well, she's a special one because when we got together in 2003, we've been together since 2003. I was in the middle of my hiatus.
Yeah.
She knew I had played in bands before. She knew I had a bass, that the P bass that had stayed in the closet all these years.
Yeah.
And then when so she was used to a life with me not dealing with band stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I came around with Dave and everything, and she's right there, man. I mean, she doesn't, scheduling and everything, she's behind me, but she refers to herself at times as the gig widow when I'm real busy. And she's not going to come to load in and sound check at 4:00 in the afternoon and then hang out all day and get home. She supports me, but she's like,
she's understanding.
You go do your thing, man.
Yeah. My wife is very similar. She supports it, but she doesn't necessarily want to be at every event and all that kind of stuff. Your story,
that's cool.
Yeah, your story sounds extremely familiar to another bass player that I know, Harry Wally.
Man, I love Harry.
Harry's
the shit. Man.
Harry is the best. I'm going to go on record and say he's one of the best bass players around here.
He's a beast.
Well,
he is a beast,
and one of the sweetest people I know.
Oh yeah, man.
I
love it because he looks like an accountant or something, and then he gets up there and just freaking just kills it.
Well,
I love it.
Yeah, that's essentially Hope Sanker. He's the accountant looking guy, and I teach science class in high school, and then we come together on stage and we do what we do. But when I met him, he had just come off a hiatus very similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah,
where his wife was like, "Don't you like play an instrument or something?" And then 15 years later, we're like,
15 basses later.
Well,
right.
I don't think I was supposed to say that.
Yeah, but that's sometimes in your musical journey, you need to stop and grow as a human, and put down the dream of, hey, we're going to raise a family and we're going to do this. We're going to get a record deal on the side. Those dreams are done. And then when you come together to meet with the people that are you're supposed to play with, it's actually for the right. You're actually getting together and playing music because that's what you have to do together.
That's 100% true.
Man.
You have to step back and you have to realize that
that's 100% true. And if it wasn't for Ray, I wouldn't be playing drums really probably at all right now.
Hey, I owe it to David Smith.
Yeah.
I always say he brought me out, man. He sucked me back in, man, harder than I can ever imagine. And, but man, life it's all about timing. And, I did all the partying back in the day. I did all the things that long-haired 22-year-old stoned bass players did in the 80s and 90s, man. I did all that.
Yeah.
And
you made it through.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Made it through. It's probably a blessing that we didn't make it,
right?
Because
it would have killed us. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of cliche. You hear people say, but I know how I partied back in the day, and if I was in a situation with, seemingly unlimited funds and on a tour bus across the country, I probably wouldn't have survived that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You and me.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, but I'm having more fun now.
Right.
Sober. Clean and clear-headed and everything. More fun now than I've ever had playing ever,
and probably making better music than ever.
I think so. I did when I listen back to the old Never Never stuff. I mean, at the time, it was what you did, and we were in it. And like I said, I was just the stoned dude. But when I listen back, I'm like going, Did we really play that?
Yeah.
We did that. We wore that.
Yeah.
What? I did that.
Yeah. The we wore that.
I was just getting ready to ask, what did you wear?
Man,
I'm like, was in spandex.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm like,
Hell
I wish if I had any sense about me, I would have shaved my head in 1988.
Yeah.
I found a picture the other day of me wearing spandex biker shorts, no shirt, behind a big Tommy Lee,
drum kit. Yeah.
Drum kit with my hair hanging down. And we're playing outside. I was like, oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
Hey, man. But when you're in it, and but yeah, man.
Yeah. Full tilt.
What do you do?
Full tilt. Hey, it's full tilt or sit on the sidelines, sit in a chair, go all in hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem with this whole being a musician thing. You can't. You can be all in, but it's either going to work or it's not.
Yeah.
You still have to have, and I've learned this from my wife, that you and you said it a minute ago, you have to have your life in order.
Yeah.
You have to have money coming in.
Yeah.
And then if you want to do music, it's got to be on the side. Really, at our age, I mean.
Yeah. And there's a contingent.
None of us are going to get signed tomorrow.
Yeah. There's a contingent of people that, I've run across them that look down on that. If you're not full time, all in, music. Well, if you're doing it, like we are, and you play in a cover band on the side, and you're doing some originals. I know there are people that, I'll just, original band snobs.
Yeah.
That are look down on that because your life, you're not a real musician if you're not, just the deal.
That's true. And
but I don't pay any attention to it.
With that said, and that's a great point. And we both know Sean Hansen. I've been in 2 or 3 bands with Sean Hansen. He's told me, I don't do this to make money. I don't do this, and him and I have had our differences, but we love each other like brothers.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Same here.
He's like, I'm 50 something years old.
Yeah.
I want to have fun and play music on a stage in front of people that are enjoying it.
Yeah.
That's right.
But he's not into what us 3 are into, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. But
man,
it's you're either, but you can't go for it anymore at our age. But we can still do what we want to do and get in front of a crowd, and it's
just as valid as the guys that all they do is play original music and starve for it and everything. It's just as just as valid.
And that's where we are at this point. And I think that's the whole point is with that is, so he's doing what he wants to do. We just want to try to create another area where we can do what we want to do as well.
Yeah.
And draw a crowd. And I think it can be done. Ray thinks it can be done.
Well, that's an interesting turn signal to go to. The venues are obviously booking the original bands on Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And putting the tribute bands in front of them on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Because of draw. I mean,
it's all man. It's business.
Yeah,
that's what makes sense. Making them the money.
Yeah,
that's right.
And it you can't fault anybody for that.
No.
But remember, I mean, we've been talking about being in Atlanta when there was a scene.
Yeah.
There were venues that were making their money having their. Did you do CJs? Did you do what were some of the venues that you were playing back in the day that were original and banging it out?
Oh god, the Cotton Club down on 10th and Peachtree, the original Roxy.
Yeah.
Never played that a bunch of times. Cotton Club, Masquerade, countless times upstairs. We did the cover thing, bunch of South Side clubs, played Danny's on 41 all the time, and God, what else was there? The International Ballroom.
Oh yeah.
But man, we're talking a whole different time.
Yeah.
Prior, social media, I think is the biggest curse and blessing to what we do. It's a double-edged sword, but I think that's, it's kids growing up on that, majority of them, I mean, it's a shame that, kids coming up now, I don't know if they do or not, know the joy of walking around downtown, stapling, flyers to telephone
We've talked
poles.
about that. Yeah, there's no bands opening up for nationals anymore where it's like, all right, you get your flyer and put it on people's cars, and we're opening for Motley Crue next week. Like literally trying to get a legitimate record deal. It's not.
I mean, I think there's because I hear them. I hear people. Civilians, as I call them, just the people that go to shows. I know there is a contingent of people that love going to see original music.
There are
that don't care to see tribute bands and cover bands. I mean, I know these people, and I'm lucky to know that there are some of these people that don't like cover bands. But still come to see my cover bands.
Right. Well, they like you, Gunny. They like you.
Right.
And they, and they're people that have become good friends of mine over the years, and from ODD and whatnot. So I feel very lucky, to have a handful of folks like that. But I mean, it's just a different time.
So on this strain of thought, this angle. Do you think that if we were to, as original artists, let the tribute bands be where they are, as far as the original things go, do you think that if we were to kind of take over a central hub venue, as, hey, if you come down here every weekend, you're going to see the best that Atlanta has as far as original music? Do we do it like that, or do we find a couple of venues, find one in town, find one out of town, and then we bounce once a month at this one, once a month at this one, and we put together proper, not 15 bands, but 2 or 3 bands to do proper set length shows, and we do showcases at how do you think we can get the original music scene to pop?
Man, I mean, those are all great ideas, and I don't think you should leave anything off the table and see what works. I just think that the trick, no matter how it's done, is getting people to the shows.
Right.
I mean, no matter what the bill is, and
that's the hard part.
It is, and I don't really have an answer to that, man.
So far because
I know, I don't know.
I do have the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, you know,
cool.
Free beer.
There you go.
We can all change the name of our bands to that.
To free beer.
Yeah.
So I went and saw a tribute band at a venue in Cartersville. Last week. My right ear just went out. Yeah. Sorry. And I'm wondering if, like, okay, so we can rent this place out, which is what I think they did. And they had
a small town theater.
Yeah. It was like you walked in and they had a theater with a full stage. It wasn't a movie theater, but they had like where you would go see a play or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a mini Fox type place.
Right.
And so they had all of these people that were I guess they were local businesses that all
sponsorship.
Right.
Sponsorship.
So the tickets were still a little pricey, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you had 3 bands, then that ticket price makes sense.
Right.
So this one band, and they were really good. I won't mention who they were. They were really good. I mean, the show was great.
Yeah. There's no knock on what the product is that these bands are putting out. It wasn't a
long show. It was like an hour long, maybe maybe an hour and a half. And everybody left happy.
Yeah.
There was no beer sales, no liquor sales. It was just everybody came in, sat in their seat, and watched a concert for an hour and a half and left.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is the perfect venue that we need to have 2 or 3 original bands come in, and we need to figure out a way to pump that.
Yeah.
And get it so psyched that people want to go see this.
Yeah.
This is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So everybody that we
that.
interview, I'm sorry, everybody that we interview that's who we're trying to get their take on that.
Yeah, just feedback.
Yeah, and I think the other trick is, and I've brought this up in all my bands over the past couple of years is I get conflicted about this. It's like as bands, original or cover bands or whatever, we can only, I believe, rely on and bug our friends and family to come to our shows so much.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, selling Tupperware or Avon.
Yeah.
If y'all,
Herbalife.
You can only sell to your immediate friends and family for so long. You have to, I always said, I want to play to venues full of people that I don't know anybody in the place.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want my friends and family to come. I do, but how do we get all the people that we don't know?
Yeah.
To buy the tickets to come to the show.
That's the magic question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did they do it back in the? How did they do it back in the 70s and 80s?
There weren't that many choices. People weren't as distracted. People weren't as distracted back then by cell phones and social media and 24/7 connectivity.
Yeah.
There's always a better deal. There's always a better something. There's always a shinier object.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Right around the corner that somebody's phone pops up.
Yeah.
It is. And, but that's the reality of it. Because, people, hey, I'd love to come to your show. But, then, maybe they really have every intention to. But then some other thing comes up and they, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've been feeling that way for a while.
Yeah.
Probably the last 7 years. It's like,
yeah.
And that's the trick that the tribute bands have, right? The tribute bands,
it's built in.
Well, my buddies in Departure, they're like, to me, they're like the benchmark of that sort of thing, right? Of the tribute band thing. They do it for real. And dude, and I know it's the name recognition of what they're doing, but they're playing, sold out theaters. And I've always said that, it's the people that, well, let's go see the Journey band or whatever, tribute band it is. And that's their draw. It's like, they're not their friends and family.
Right.
They're the middle-aged.
That's a great point.
Couple
really
down the road that said, let's go see the whatever band.
Well, here's the other thing, guys. The people that are going to see, I like somebody said on one of the podcasts, the legacy bands.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know who used that term, but it's brilliant. The people that want to go see the legacy bands are also the people that can pretty much afford an S-Class Mercedes and
correct,
and have the funds to go out and really have a show, have a night. It's no longer $3 to get in, and there's $2 PBRs. type of things going on. So, so I was going to ask a minute ago about the asking your friends and family and all that to come out to your shows. That it's gotten to the point, kind of, for me personally, that in my solo project with Giza, I'm going to do 2 shows a year.
Mm-hmm.
Bang them out.
Right.
And that's my ask.
I quit.
Right.
You know what I mean? but essentially that's what I can kind of count on and not feel bad about asking those,
Sure.
We did a Wednesday night, our inaugural headlining of Mad Life, and we had like 125 people on a Wednesday night.
Awesome.
It had to fall in a perfect slot in between my seasons of my real job, where people were actually free to come out, and they came. But I don't know if I could do it again.
Let me clarify my concept there a little bit.
Yeah.
That's coming from more the original band thing, where you're not doing so many shows. That's different. I guess I'm more coming from the place of my cover band stuff, where you're playing. Oh, it's it's like
Yeah.
I guess that ties into the tribute bands. It's like, man, you get tired of sending out all the invites every other weekend to all your Facebook friends and family that just get numb to it.
Right.
Well, like what you're talking about, obviously that makes sense.
It's an actual show. It's only going to happen this time, and we got a little something special for you this time that you haven't seen.
That is correct.
You know what I mean?
And yes, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. So
especially for Secret Weapon, that's all we've got because nobody does it, man. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have a website. I don't have all of this and that.
All right. Thanks for stealing my next question, but that's it.
Yeah.
So you got nothing. You got nobody booking you. You got no.
I don't even have a band photo yet, man.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with Scully. But the thing about Secret Weapon, we were rehearsing, and we're like, well, we're working on some recordings. Like we know the guys at the Star Bar, so we're going to refine the recordings and get them, and hopefully they'll book us on there. And then when Scully announced the 10 High show, I just sent him a message, and I said, Scully, I've been working on this thing.
Yeah.
I don't have a demo. I don't have a photo. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have shit, but I'd love to be on your show.
Yeah.
He didn't hesitate. He was like, you got it, man.
Coley is the bomb.
Yeah.
He's like, you got it. I'd love to have you. And he didn't even know what we sound. He knew nothing. Just on my ass.
He's an amazing advocate of original music for sure.
But that's not true, Gunny, because you know what he knows? He knows Gunny. And he knows that Gunny's not going to be involved in anything that's subpar. And that's what... so
that's what I banked on.
Yeah. So the whole reason this podcast happened, it was a Monday afternoon at 3:30. Actually, it was 3:20. I had to be at work on duty at 3:30. And I saw that he accepted Hope Sanker's... we got on the bill. And I saw the list of bands. And I was like, well, somebody needs to do a podcast or interview all these bands.
Right.
And this was like 2 weeks before the show.
Right.
And so I had the great, let's go.
He took care of it.
Awesome.
And so we literally tried to get as many of the bands, and they were all right there. Now, this is actually a good point to bring up. I saw a list of, I think it was 26 bands with the acoustic stage and the full electric stage that I then had to, I wasn't furnished an email list or a contact list. I had to go to their Facebook, find out that half of them did not have a message us here link, try to search for a website to try to find an email address to try to find, like, if you
are you hearing violins? I'm hearing violins.
You can hear violins. What I'm trying to say...
He works his ass off on this.
No, that's not about what I do at all. What it's about is if you are a band and you are in any city, doesn't have to be Atlanta, it has to be anywhere, and you have to be reachable easily. Yeah. If somebody listens or sees a clip of you, they have to be able to go, oh, message now. I think, what do they call it? Jump in my DMs or whatever. I don't know these days. But you have to.
That is what it is. Yeah.
You have to have the ability, as a buyer, talent buyer, or a label. Anybody that needs to get professionally in touch with you should easily be able to do that. And I was amazed at what I saw. I put my personal cell phone number on my stuff.
Right.
Hey, text me. Contact me here. Yeah. It should not be difficult to find a song, a video, something of you, and it should not be hard to reach out.
Yeah.
I guess I was going on a rant on that, but
that's okay.
It was way harder to reach people than I thought. And so I did find that. But anyway, there was a list of bands, and I knew that they were good bands because, I've either played with them in the past or rely on Scully to go, okay.
Right.
We're going to put good players.
Like Scully knows, Kenny knows, all from.
How did you find me?
Well,
I remember getting a text from you saying, "Hey, are you doing any original stuff these days?"
Yeah, and
through Sean Hansen.
No,
I'm just kidding.
For me, it was I did a couple of shows with ODD and loved what you and loved what you guys were doing, and I had landed the headlining date at Mad Life and tried to get you guys as my opener.
Right.
And I had gotten in touch with Dave, and he said, I moved to Florida.
Yep.
Here's Gunny's contact. Contact him. So you know, circle through the circle. I will rabbit hole all day long to get what I want.
Yeah.
And so I got a hold of you, and then I was told that I couldn't book you to open for us because they wanted to do something else. And it would have been so much cooler if it would have been you guys. Trust me. But yeah, I mean, it's all about networking, not burning relationships or friendships and all that kind of stuff. But I did want to go back. We had mentioned Harry Wally earlier.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody get so like excited when he was talking about possibly playing through your rig, which happens to be the Doug 1000 or something. Tell us about your rig that you're using, your bass amp. You're using pedals of any kind. You don't need to with that thing. So tell us about that rig.
Man, at the 10 high gig, I had my Doug 1000 head, and I didn't even bring my wireless or anything. I just plugged straight into that amp and did the show. And that's pretty much my rig, and has been, you know, since I didn't start with that rig in ODD, because when ODD formed, the Doug 1000 wasn't even out.
Right.
I was carrying around SVTs, and I was doing 2 SVTs, one clean, one dirty, because with ODD, very King's X Rush influenced, we were going with that big, grindy, meaty bass sound. So I was trying to achieve that through various methods, and had good success with various pedals and preamps, 2 SVTs. Yes, and I was carrying around 2 8x10 cabinets.
I was getting ready to say, were they the tall 8x10?
Oh my God.
That's like moving furniture, dude.
No,
dude, in the early days of ODD, and Dave was carrying around 2 Marshall stacks, and we were like, oh, we're going to be like this big arena rock band. People are going to love it. It's going to be cool. And then, Dave came across when the Doug 1000 amp was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Dave was like, man, you need to get that amp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you're right. So I found one, actually a B stock for Musician's Friend.
Beautiful.
And bought it.
Yeah.
And it was still expensive as shit.
Yeah.
But I bought it, and it took some getting used to, but once it did, it's like, that was the sound. And I wasn't trying to go for the exact Doug Pinnick sound, but the way that you can blend the distortion with the low end, it just worked perfectly. And I can clean it up if I need to. And so really, I don't use any pedals. I have a tuner and a wireless on a pedal board into that amp, and was it.
It's the way you play too, anyway, right?
Yeah.
We just talked to Johnny Southern earlier, and he said that it's like, you know, it's the way you play. You can play through a Doug Pinnick amp,
right?
And it's not going to sound like Doug Pinnick. It's going to sound like you sound.
Yeah.
Can we get really nerdy on that? First off, is that made by Tech 21?
Tech 21.
Okay. And how many watts is that head?
It's 1,000 watts.
Makes sense.
It's 2 separate preamps. So you got the bottom end preamp that has no treble controls. It's got bass, a high pass filter, and a mid boost.
Now is that bi-amped? So can you send that side to a separate?
Well, you have 3 outputs on the back. You have a low XLR output. So like what Doug does is he sends 3 separate signals to front of house.
Okay.
The low out, the high out, and the mix out, where they blend the 2. I only use the mix out, but it's one amplifier, 2 preamps, and you blend them with the level control of each one, so you can get a nice meaty, full sound. And it, like the preamp on top with all the treble and drive controls is completely useless by itself.
Wow.
It sounds like dog shit by itself, but it's supposed to. It's the distortion.
Right.
And you blend that on top of the low end, and that's where you different levels of grind. And the pedal, I had the pedal for a while, the DP3.
That's what we use. I have one in the studio here at all times.
It's great. And what you're going to hear when you listen to the recording I sent you is me plugged straight into my DP3 pedal. I actually sold to John Mark that he has in his studio where we rehearse.
Yeah.
So I play through that there, but it doesn't come close to what the amp does. But if you've never experienced the amp, and you only play the pedal, it's great. There's nothing wrong with the pedal, but I was spoiled with the amp.
Okay, so you're talking about pushing air, and that totally makes the difference, obviously.
But I don't use cabinets anymore.
Oh, whoa! So you're saying that you're using the DP1000 head as a pedal.
As the preamp. Really, since I've gone to in-ear.
And using the mix out.
Using the mix out. I quit carrying cabinets around, but so I carry around the heaviest preamp. And I actually talked to the guy at Tech 21 that designed that amp. I was having a problem with it a few months ago, and I was talking to him, and same guy that worked directly with Doug Pinnick on the prototypes and everything. So they don't make amps anymore.
Wow.
They don't. I have one of only about 200 of those amps that was ever made.
Oh, dude, don't ever get rid of it. Is
it? Oh no.
Yeah.
What's that?
Can I have
it? He wants it.
Yeah. So I'm lucky to have it. And I told Harry, like at that gig, my buddy Blade, Hudson, played before us, and we were chatting way before the gig, and he was using the DP3 and his pedal was messed up, and I'm like, well, hey man, my drummer Johnny has a DP3 and I'm sure you could borrow it, or I'm like, hell, fuck it, man, I'll get down there early, you can play through my head. And he was just like over the moon. He was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, dude. So I got down there early and set Blade up with the head, and he played it for his set.
Yeah, dude, I think Gunny, you might be the saint of musicians that day, because there was another situation. There was another situation. Poor guy locked his car and locked his bass in his car, and then you loaned him your bass. Now tell me about that bass. It's like a floral carbon paint job looking thing. What is that all about?
So a few years ago, a friend of mine gave me this bass that it was just a parts bass with cheap neck, cheap tuners, cheap bridge, but it was a decent P bass type.
Like Warmth type stuff?
Cheap stuff that he put together. He's like, I'm going to give you this bass. I'm like, okay, long story, friend of mine. But so he gives me this bass, and it was actually a decent little P bass that I just used here in the house and whatnot. And then I started messing with refinishing stuff, and during the pandemic I started painting and refinishing metal furniture and this and that, and I painted a guitar. I started messing with that, so I decided I was going to hot rod that bass that he gave me. So I took it all apart and I painted that myself. It's just a no-name P bass body, so I refinished it, and that bass I decked out with a Warmth neck, hip shot bridge, shallow tuners. I hot rodded everything. So it's a no-name P bass body that I refinished myself with other premium parts,
real deal parts.
And it's a beast. I couldn't be happier with it.
Now, when you play, are you drop tuned? Are you drop D?
Not ODD was. We tuned a whole step down. Okay. Secret Weapon is standard tuning. Yeah.
Well, that was what Danny was just saying.
We did half step down and said never, but whole step down. Was like
we're whole step D G C F DGCF. Had to have my basses completely reset up for that. But yeah, Secret Weapons, standard tuning. That's what she said. It's a half step down.
That's balls and chunk right there, brother.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
Hey, well, let's give a listen to the Secret Weapon track. You say this is going to be 3 songs put into one, and it's
one thing. There's about a 30-second intro, and then the first song is called Stage Tuner.
Okay.
And then it'll segue into another one. Like I said, you don't have to. It's the whole thing's about 8 minutes or so, but you cut it whenever you want.
Okay. So when I hear a song title named Stage Tuner, you know what the first thing that comes to my mind is? When you go see a inexperienced band and they are all on stage open tuning loud ding 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 ding.
Well, there's a story behind this song.
What's the story then? Give us the story.
So Dan Wu-Chan, who wrote the song way back in the 90s, he was actually doing a guitar tech gig for Kevin Kinney of Driving and Crying.
Yeah.
Those guys kind of all knew each other, and Dan was like, whatever. Well, his debut gig of teching for Kevin Kinney, he's there at the gig, and his tuner disappeared. He didn't know if somebody stole it, he lost it, or whatever. So here he is on his big debut gig for Kevin Kinney as his guitar tech, and he can't find his fucking tuner.
Oh man!
So he wrote a song about it.
All right. Hey, perfect time. Let's take a listen to Secret Weapon and their release here.
Stage Tuner. And this Andy Wall played all the little samples that you hear.
Oh, okay.
Off his pedal board. So there were no tracks. He took samples from the actual beautiful demos and put them on his pedal board to play in between songs.
Wow, that's cool. I dig it.
It cost my debut
it goes from stage tuner to what?
My radio.
My radio.
There's another story. They all have a story.
Right. So, Gunny, you were saying that these are just recorded at a rehearsal?
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, the production's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, it sounds really good.
It's Johnny's studio, the drummer. He's in his basement, man cave. He's got, X32 out to multi-track to Reaper.
Done.
And then he just did a quick, pretty quick mix. But yeah, that's raw.
Because the drums sound like they are definitely multi-tracked. I mean, I can hear every drum on it.
Oh, it's definitely multi. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, man.
And it sounds like on the first song was Stage Tuner.
Yeah.
I could hear the two different guitar. There's one was having like on a wah-wah, and one was kind of grinding out chords and stuff.
Yeah,
it's such a Spinal Tap thought.
Yeah. I lost my stage tuner.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's so great.
Well, it's interesting. When we go backstage before a show, you don't have your stage tuner, and these crazy little things that you clamp on the headstock became a thing. I don't even know where they came from, but it was interesting with technology and new things that pop up. It makes things easier, but it makes things weird. I'm like, what is this thing?
I used one of those headstock tuners at the 10 High gig because I wanted to be plug and play, simple. Like I didn't want to bring out my whole pedal board with my tuner and wireless. Yep. I snuck I pirated my in-ear monitor mix to use. So like when I set up my amp for Blade, I plugged in my my in-ear monitor transmitter on top of my head. Yeah. And then I dialed into the system and I sat out there while Zion Stovall was playing and mixed my ears.
Wow.
So by the time I got on stage, I was 90%
you had the password to get into the router to be able to control which
look at him.
I was
a proud son of a bitch.
Dude,
look at him.
I was bugging Curtis the week before. I was like, hey man, can I plug in my thing? And the day of the show, I'm like, hey, get in, I'm putting this and that. So I hooked it up, and I'm kind of a snob when it comes to my in-ear mix, man.
Oh, who's not?
Game changer for me, man.
Yeah. So people that don't really know what we're talking about, in the new technology of mixers, the digital mixers, they've got sends on faders. I'm looking at it right now, and you have the ability to on an iPhone or an iPad dial in, on your iPhone. Gunny's got it right there.
Yeah, man.
You're able to kind of dial in your own mix of how much of the drums you hear, how much of the bass you hear, how much of the guitars you hear, how much of the vocals, all that kind of stuff. And so you can really fine tune your in-ear mix.
Yep.
And when I did the initial Giza show, before Rick joined us, we did a show. We went to this venue, and I looked around and I looked at the sound guy, and I was like, yeah, he here you go. And he's like, what are these? I was like, it's right and left stereo mix out of my X32. I was like, it's already pre-mixed, man. Just plug it into the house.
Yeah.
And I literally was able to send him a polished mix.
It sounded great.
Which
nice.
It was like done. And he had never seen it before, because I mean, he actually was using Behringer equipment, but he never saw an in-ear rack with that much horsepower be able to come in and go boom boom. It sounds like the stereo.
I go through a lot of trouble, man, with That's What She Said, especially to carry my in-ear rack, and splitter snake and all that, where there's house PA. I'm like, here's my split, do whatever you want. We got our monitors, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you real quick, over your left shoulder there, is that a Eddie Van Halen?
It sure looks like one, doesn't it?
Tribute picture of some sort?
What, that thing?
Yeah.
No. That's just some random weird local art that we picked up at a festival somewhere along the line.
It looks like Frankenstein Eddie guitar.
It does, actually.
Yeah, it does. I never thought of that.
I actually thought that was a guitar neck, but I see now that
it is.
Okay.
Oh, so
right next to it, I thought it was the Eddie's guitar.
This is the cheap no-name neck that came off the bass
what
that
you
my
put the
friend gave
Warmouth
me
on?
that you were asking me about.
Yeah.
So now it just hangs on the wall.
That's cool. Can I have that?
Yeah. Sure, man. I'll sell it to you.
I'm just playing.
Come on. It's a decent neck. I tried to make. You probably can't see it, but I tried to make my own logo.
Oh, I like that. Actually,
that is cool.
Because
are you a hip shot detuner type guy, or?
I used one way back in the '90s, but now I just turn the key. But really, since in ODD we tuned down
everything,
a whole step. But then we had songs where I was dropping my low string down to C.
Right. Yeah. Drop C. Yeah.
And so I still didn't do a hip shot.
How did you even know if you were like in the right spot or not, key wise?
Well,
I mean, I'm being serious. If you're listening to a wedge in front of you, how do you know if you're like there or not?
Well, the wedge would have a hard time at that low. Yeah.
Not using wedges.
Okay. So you were in here when you were doing that.
Well, when ODD first started, we weren't on ears, but with our PA, we were using just wedge mixes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dave, I think, was responsible for destroying part of my hearing one night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went to custom molded earplugs.
Yeah.
And wedges, and then first, which worked out great.
Strong
actually.
move.
Yeah.
And it worked out great. And then went to ears and.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, my ears already have so much damage that if I played the 10 high that night, we did 30 minutes, and at the end of it, I was like, all right, that's enough. It's weird when you're playing live and I don't care if you have an hour and a half to do stage monitors. I don't care if it's an open ear type of situation.
Yeah.
there are going to be sweet spots on the stage
that
you have to move to in order to hear yourself when you're doing a solo or any of these type things.
And be careful not to feedback.
And with ears, it's like it's the perfect mix wherever I stand.
That's right.
And I
always tell people because I get asked a lot from people about my in-ear rig and about ears that don't use them and all that. And I like to tell people, I'm like, man, you think your band's tight?
Yeah. Yep.
You're not as tight as you think you are.
Yep.
Get everybody on ears and find out.
Yeah, that is
and then really, I feel like it's made me a better player, a better listener.
Yeah.
How do you feel about clicks?
Yeah.
Are you down with a click?
We use tracks, and that's what she said.
Yeah.
I don't put the click in my ear.
Yeah.
Well, Kenny you don't need to. Right.
I don't need to. I'm fine with the click. And even in ODD, those songs were the ODD songs, man, if they were a bit too fast or a bit too slow, they were no bueno. Right, every time you heard ODD, every song was to a metronome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every tempo, Kenny had that click in his ear for every song.
Yeah.
No tracks,
right?
But just metronome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
No.
You can get to a point to where you get used to having a click in your ear, and you can still have that human feel.
Mm-hmm. Push and pull.
Oh, yeah.
You can still push and pull. Yeah. When I first started using it, I was like, man, I was old school. Man, this is BS. I don't want to have a click in my ear. It's distracting me.
Yeah.
But I finally got to the point now where I'm comfortable. I'm more comfortable with it. And it's like, okay, now I know once the songs are in my head, now I can let loose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do, a little have a little more freedom doing things.
Yeah. And I do things to him, Gunny, like I put guides in the track where I'm like, stay calm. I was like, don't screw this up.
No.
I thought that was the name of the song.
It is. Stay calm. That's a lisp on it. But yeah, and I think when people go and see a band and they're like, man, they were tight. I don't think that what they really don't understand is that, either there were click tracks going on, or listen, if you go to a show and you see these in a drummer's ears,
there's a click
guaranteed
track.
Click.
Sure.
Yeah. If you see these in the singer's ears or in anything else, there's a click track and there's likely some support.
Right.
Well, I think there's a psychological subliminal type thing that happens to the listener.
Yeah.
Because when you're on a click and everything is, if it's done properly and everything's consistent, it sounds more like you're listening to a record.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so I think there's an impact. And like my wife would even say, she loves music, but she doesn't know about the mechanics of playing music and being in a band. She just knows if something's off. And she would always compliment after ODD or we'd go see other bands. She would be like, why do you guys just sound so much more together than
mine too?
This band here or this band that we saw? You guys just always seem so much more. She couldn't really put her finger on it.
Yeah.
We just sound more together.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, we rehearse
isn't
our asses off.
Isn't it funny how my wife says the same exact thing? You can tell when a band's tight, and it's because they're using tools that are available to us.
Yeah.
We're not depending on them. Anything that we're listening to track-wise, at least in this band, has been played by this guy.
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing that we bought. Right. There's nothing that's added in. I do know bands that buy tracks. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. The point is, it makes sense and it works. It keeps it makes it more
better. It makes it more better for the listener.
Yeah.
More better.
It makes it more better.
It really does.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not mad at anybody what they do, man. As long as they're not faking their lead tracks and their lead vocals, if they're not faking that or what they're enhancing, and they're doing their thing, not hurting anybody. I don't.
I got these guys that I listen. I don't know who you listen to. Every day I listen to Joe Rogan podcast or whoever, and Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk, I like him. I know him. I've met him several times. He just hates it on guys that use tracks.
Yeah.
and he doesn't shut up about it. It's like, dude, just shut up about it.
Well, first off, my question is okay, Eddie Trunk,
you don't do shit.
What band were you in?
You talk to these guys.
What band were you in? That'd be my first question.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And then second question is, Gunny, I don't know if you've ever heard, I'm sorry, but this will be the second time I bring this band up on the podcast. Eddie Trunk and Sebastian Bach had a big go at a band that their laptop failed, and they had to cancel the show because they were, it was a bad situation.
Yeah.
But this band, what they're doing, it has rap beats going on. It's got rock going on. It's a theatrical event, and and so the band is Falling in Reverse, and I dare you to go and watch their video called Watch the World Burn.
Okay.
Falling in Reverse, Watch the World Burn.
Have you told me about that?
Yeah. And if you go and you watch this video and you listen to the music, if you don't have tracks, you don't have a song.
Right.
And it's the video it's like Thriller when it first came out. It was like, wow, I've never seen anything like it. So
right.
Yeah, I have no problem with tracks, like you said. I'm just trying to create the best experience for the.
As long as you're not using it for 90% of what you're hearing, which I know bands that do that, and people that, and I know people that go and see these bands and they think they're the best band they've ever seen.
Yeah.
That pisses me off.
Yeah,
because they know the songs and they go away singing the words,
and of course they're cover bands too. They're not.
Right.
And I'm not talking about you. That's support. I'm talking about bands that I know. That do overboard stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Well,
understood.
It's a tool for the trade, and it is what it is. But it would be interesting to. I think. One of my favorite bands of all time. I think Kiss is getting reamed a little bit over track usage and all that.
Vocals, Well,
the guys are 75 years old. They need a track.
Exactly. They talk about it. They're about done. There's going to be another Kiss. Kiss is going to continue.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be with those guys.
I always said that if Gene Simmons doesn't have Nick, if Nick isn't the next Gene Simmons, and they have a new young group, and hey, Gene, Paul, write them a new record. Be co-writers on Generation 2.
I don't think he wants to, because he's a musician in his own right.
Yeah, I think he is too. But but the idea of being able to, obviously,
it's like Wolfgang. Wolfgang's like, fuck you, I'm going to go do my own thing.
I was going to bring Wolfgang up earlier when we were talking about Foo Fighters.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Wolfgang just released, and if you don't know, Mammoth. Mammoth has got a new record coming out, and they just released a new video.
A second one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's already out. It's coming out. If you saw one of the videos on the first record where it was, it was Wolfgang in the studio. He's like, "Where's the drummer?"
He's playing everything.
Wolf is late.
It's the best video.
It's ever. A recap of that idea where he's standing there with two other of him, and he fires himself
it's brilliant.
And then he starts hiring the band, and he finds the pizza delivery guy as a drummer, and he puts
they're all him.
And no, this is a new one. He's actually bringing in the members of the band, the new if you go check out the new Mammoth video, it's really cool. And that was a question that I was going to ask. Is there any new music, new artists? I just mentioned mine, Falling in Reverse, Watch the World Burn. Is there any new artist or song out there where you go, okay, there is hope for music, whether it's rock, whether it's whatever? There's something that inspires you.
Man, nothing that I can really think of that stands out that comes to mind, but because I don't listen to I don't know where the new stuff comes from nowadays. If I don't just come across it, going down a YouTube rabbit hole at some point. But I recently was, lamenting, to my wife that I was tired of 90% of the music that's been on my iPod for all these years. So I rediscovered Pandora.
Right.
And I've got several Pandora stations that I shuffle through. And, I hear stuff that I've never heard before, and I can't tell you if they're a band that came out last week or a band that came out 15 years ago that I just never heard of.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got Tomahawk Radio, I've got Tame Impala Radio, I've got Primus Radio, Mr. Bungle, all these different, Vines Radio and Garage Rock, and I'll just shuffle through and I hear things I've never heard before, which is what I always wanted.
Yeah.
And really, man, dude, I can hear a pop song that could be, I don't know, what they call this K-pop or whatever.
Yeah.
I could hear some song by some group like that or whoever, and a song either hits me in some kind of way or it doesn't.
Melody, or it could be anything, right?
Whatever vibe. And if something hits me a certain kind of way, I don't care where it came from or who made it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it turns me on, it turns me on. But like any one particular something new, I really can't pinpoint that. But I don't like old guys like us.
Yeah.
The ones, I'm not saying that you guys are like this. I'm just saying, our ilk. They're like, oh, new music sucks, and anything past 19. I'm gonna tell you, man. I'm the 80s. I'm over the 80s, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the 80s. Everybody's all nostalgia, 80s hairband. I don't give a shit about that anymore.
Well, it's just getting pushed too hard right now.
Yeah. I've been over it for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so I just want to hear new stuff that excites me, no matter where it comes from.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, and this is going against what you just said, what is your all-time favorite song, or do you have one?
I don't have an
Do you have a handful
song? So many, but I mean,
do you
I
have like
a
3 or 4?
Oh God, man.
That's a hard one.
For different reasons. They could be for different reasons, for like where you were at the time, or like something you were going through.
Oh man!
Because for me, like Kansas, The Wall, that's one of my all-time favorite bands.
Magnum.
The Wings, Maybe I'm Amazed. That's one of 2 of my top 5.
Well, I think there's different songs for different reasons. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Sultans of Swing.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Because it reminds. I know every word and every nuanced guitar lick.
Yeah.
To that, not to play it,
right,
but to hear it in my head, because of my dad,
right?
Because when that shit came out back in the day, man, he's no longer.
When was it? 86,
2012.
Yeah.
Oh God, man, I don't remember, but he wore that out, and on our record player at home, and it got ingrained. So when I hear that, it reminds. And Cats in the Cradle.
There you go.
Reminds me of of my dad. So
now we're talking.
He's probably he wasn't a musician, but he loved music.
Yeah.
So my love for music came as a direct result of being his son and living in his household.
You had no choice but to absorb it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you ask the question, I'm trying to think of like, what just like, song, but I mean, really, it's
no, that was the right answer. But
there's so many.
Yeah, there are so many. It's hard to do.
Yeah,
it's very hard to do.
Yeah, and then there's the question of what's your absolute most favorite song to play? There's different things. So what's your favorite song to listen to? Well, what's your favorite song to play?
Oh, man, again, so many.
Yeah.
Right now, it's all the Secret Weapon stuff that we're doing.
I was going to say mine's kind of the Giza stuff too, because I don't.
Yeah.
There's no covers that I have a favorite one to go to.
Right. And we were talking about this the other night, man, because going back to the in-ear monitor thing. So like, and that's what she said. We're playing, we have a new guitar player since David left. So we're still working out the kinks to some of the stuff that we've been playing, since That's What She Said started. And, the other night we rehearsed, and I'm going to brag a little bit, but in our rehearsal room, I've got our in-ear mix so freaking clean and good.
Yeah.
I know, especially for me where I sit, that it just sounds so good to me.
Yeah.
I'll play any damn thing.
Yeah.
If I've played it 1,000 times or I'm sick of it. So that night at rehearsal, everything I played was my favorite thing because everything just sounded so good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But like, seriously, the Secret Weapon stuff, man, like I said, those are songs that I've loved ever since I played them originally with Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so now to be in a situation at this point in my life with completely new people that also are as turned on by playing the stuff. And I'm telling you, if you heard the original Beautiful recordings, what you just heard of those songs, way more hard rock heavy and more, and that's what I wanted.
Oh yeah.
That's how,
the version
that's how that's how I always heard those songs. And so to bring those songs to life, which I think are just, and that's only barely a tenth of the stuff.
Sure.
So to be in a situation again with people that are is equally excited about them, I'm loving playing them.
Yeah.
That gig that we did, our first gig, it was just, I couldn't have expected or hoped for it to turn out any better than it did. And I look forward to continuing on that stuff and writing with John Wade and Andy, and bringing their songs that they've written that have just kind of been on the shelf to life under the Secret Weapon umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, we've again, last minute call. Gunny comes to the rescue again, and
no problem.
Saved the podcast for tonight. Enjoyed talking to you.
Totally.
Man.
There's one last story that I would like. I don't know if you would.
Okay.
But there's one last story that I would like to hear your side of it.
Okay.
We had Cure My Enemy on a couple of weeks ago, I guess, and we previewed a song of theirs called "Dark Prince."
That's right.
And it, recorded beautifully, great written song.
Yep.
His vocal on that's just,
I love Colt.
It's unreal.
I get goosebumps listening to that dude sing.
Yeah, I love Colt.
And then we heard the story about what the song was about.
Right.
I love Tyler too, right?
Yeah, Tyler was cool too.
Man, I love both those guys.
So when we interviewed them, we also learned that they shot a video.
Yeah.
And in said video, you might have been in it.
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
Not might.
And Satan.
Yeah. And we have not seen the video yet.
Yeah, he played.
I just saw a preview of it for the first time last week.
Oh,
is it posted somewhere, or is it still?
No.
Okay.
It's still in editing. And I asked Colt at the 10 High show.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I shaved my body and painted myself black. When am I going to see this thing? And he's like, I didn't send it to you. And I said,
you got the same beard that I usually have. I got that big long thing.
Well, that's what he called me up, or sent me a message.
That's why he wanted you.
Out of the blue.
Yeah.
This was last year, like July or something, man. I get a message from Colt and asking me to, specifically they wanted my, bald head beard to do this video.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, hell yeah. I mean, how you going to call me up and ask me to do that? And I'm going to say no.
Right.
It's like, no, of course I'll do it for you,
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
He's got a song that's been stuck in my head for a week. I won't.
Yeah.
I guess I can plug it.
You already plugged it earlier.
Did I?
Yeah, you talked about it.
Yeah.
But
that was before we started, I think.
It might have been. But yeah, we'll keep that on the back burner.
Down low.
But without giving away, I mean, he already kind of told kind of what you were doing, but did it come out? Did it come out as cool sound as it sounded when he was telling us about it? Is it?
It did.
Yeah,
it did, and it was really weird. Seeing myself in that environment and that context, it was kind of trippy.
Yeah.
Knowing what the environment was like and what shooting it was like, and then seeing. I think they're still working on the editing, but as a rough draft, and I showed it to my wife, and she was like, "Well, I mean, it's legit. They're doing a really good job with it," and. I just had to walk around in a Speedo and just be creepy.
I've shot a couple of videos with my other band, Say Never. I hated it. Dude, I hate shooting videos.
Dude, I don't like it. I don't like.
I did a couple with Fozzy too. I hated it. It's just,
yeah.
I don't like photo shoots.
It's like hurry up and wait.
Yeah. Oh, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
For sure, but it was fun, and it took legit 4 or 5 months for my hair on my legs, and I'm pretty I got pretty hairy legs, and my wife was a little upset about it because she likes my hairy legs, and it took longer to grow back than even I.
Mama likes the hairy legs.
See, as an artist,
she thought she was sleeping with a little baby for a minute.
As artists, see what we will go through.
That's funny.
In order to give you our art. So, again, Gunny, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, man.
We would like to have water to wine. We'd like to talk to that group too, and learn about them.
Yeah, I'll see them next week. Actually, we were supposed to rehearse last night, but something last minute with Matt came up, so we had to punt it to next week. But when I see him next week, I'll certainly bring it up.
Yeah,
because like I was saying, in that band, when I say the term "I'm just the bass player," I mean that because there's a whole story to that. But like in that band, I am just a bass player. I'm like, I don't write it. I'm like, tell me when rehearsal is and when the gig is. I'm like. It doesn't matter to me what picture you want to use. It doesn't matter to me what the T-shirts look like. It doesn't matter to me, what. I just want to be the bass player and play your music to the best of my ability for you, and that's what I do. All the other band stuff, I don't really get involved with.
There's a bit of beauty in that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care how y'all do that. It doesn't matter what song. Tell me where to be and what songs to play. And
I get that 100%.
Yeah, man.
All right, Gunny. Well, we appreciate you Gunny. Again, and we'll see you on the flip side, brother.
You got it, man. I'll try to get the whole band. Hopefully, we can schedule it where everybody can be on next time.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Sure.
All
right, brothers. Thanks, y'all.
Good. See ya.
All right, man.
You're watching the Original Music Atlanta podcast.